structural intervention measures could be taken so that the tidal waves or regular, that this is the salt water, how this salt water can be regulated and they can be replaced with the rainwater, which is plenty of rainfall comes over there. So this, some of these aspects that we have to highlight, other than that climate impact that which we are studying or the entire world is concerned with. So with this, I would say that let us see that this program becomes a kickstart program for all of us, where RICA and NIDM joint activity could take off from now onward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. And for now, we would invite Dr. Ranit Chatterjee for his special address. Before that, a brief description about Ranit Chatterjee. He is the co-founder of RICA, PhD Environmental Management from Kyoto University, Japan. Trained as an architect, Ranit has worked focused mainly on disaster management while spanning across architecture and heritage governance, private sectors, and ecosystem services. He also is an IRDR Young Scientist Fellow with CEM, a member of IUCN. Ranit, over to you now.
Thank you, Krishna Kali, and a very good morning to everyone from Tokyo. First of all, I would like to thank NIDM, especially Shri Taj Hassanji, Chandan Gosar, Dr. Garima, and all other colleagues from NIDM for actually accepting this proposal to do more deep research-based training, and possibly not many of such programs have been taken up. So this is the first, I think it's already been shared that this is the first possibly kind of training program that we are holding as part of this research or study that we're going to continue on Sundarbans. And what we want to do is through this first program, we want to collect or see that what is the collective knowledge available on Sundarbans so that we can take it forward from there. We can, rather than reinventing the wheel, it's always good to know what is there. So this is possibly an kind of a step towards that. And I'm also thankful to all the excellent speakers who will be sharing their knowledge. They are very busy, but they have taken their time out. So it's I'm really thankful on behalf of NIDM as well as on behalf of RICA for their time. And lastly, like my colleagues from RICA, they have worked very hard, and I'm sure this would be also a very good learning experience for all of you who are joining here today. And what I would extend like an invitation to all of you, because I'm sure there is a lot of knowledge which is there within all of you. So if you in any way want to contribute to this study, please do feel free to write to us. I think we would be very open to see how we can incorporate your knowledge into this study. So with that, let me just briefly talk about the topic and why it is very important. As it has been said, that Sundarbans is possibly a World Heritage Site, both Indian side and the Bangladesh side. And there are two specific points for which it actually became an World Heritage Site. One is it because of its ecological process of delta formation, and the second is the biodiversity that Sundarbans has. So these are the two unique points, and that's where it becomes very important that in order to maintain its World Heritage status, Sundarbans has to actually protect these 2 points. And what we are seeing over the period is with every disaster event, or I won't say disaster, but a hazard event even, is pushing it towards a brink of to a brink where possibly the whole ecological process is getting disrupted. The whole biodiversity is slowly getting diluted. And this becomes a serious issue. And these are not just happening because of, say, hazard event like cyclone or floods or any other such event, but it's also because of its complex relation with the regular daily life and the development process, which actually both are working together. And that's where it's very important to understand how the ecosystem services are linked with our infrastructure. When I talk about infrastructure, it's just not the physical infrastructure as we see in buildings or natural infrastructure as we see in forest, or say or the water bodies, but also in terms of its social infrastructure, which is where we all human beings are very important. Also in terms of its economic infrastructure, because unless these all infrastructures are sustained, this ecosystem will not sustain itself. So that's very important factor that we need to understand. And I'm not sure how many of you have known, but this is currently we are in the decade. This is the first year of the decade for biodiversity restoration, and that's where it is very important that we start this research. And if you have looked into this dossier which has been prepared for biodiversity restoration, there are three very important points that we want to that I want to highlight here. One is to have ground level action to restore the biodiversity. That's a very important point. The second is how communities or how all of us make smart choices so that we think about the biodiversity restoration and we reduce the risk of the biodiversity loss. And third is how well we can voice our opinion for biodiversity restoration, conservation. So these are possibly three areas that biodiversity restoration is focusing on. But this is again some three areas that we also would be focusing as part of our study to see that how we can do it when looking at Sundarban as a case, and how we can involve various entities, various stakeholders who are acting in Sundarbans, whose life and livelihoods are very much interlinked, and in doing that, what we are also going to focus is the cultural continuity of Sundarbans, because unless we have the cultural continuity and link it with the ecosystem services, I think this complex system will not function. It's not possible to just look at the natural resources and conserve it, because it's very much part of our the daily life of people in Sundarbans, where people go to forest for honey collection, for fishing, for other stuff. And there is a lot of cultural I would say belief systems are there. There are a lot of traditions which are being followed, and they itself become a regulatory mechanism, like a checkpoint for stopping the degradation of the ecosystem services. So these, I think, are very soft issues, but it plays a very important part in, and it also is very important for a longer term intervention in protecting and restoring the biodiversity. So with that, I'll stop and I'll pass it over to Krishna Kali for I think the speakers to take the platform. Thank you, and I hope all of you will enjoy this training program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amit. Now, the words which you and Dr. Ghosh said were very informative about the cultural aspects and the aspects of ecosystem services. For the participants, quickly, I would like to inform that kindly display your full names on the Zoom so that we can take an attendance for the same. And now, for each speaker today, we will be having 45 minutes for the presentation, and participants are requested to ask the questions at the end of this session, or in the chat box, and also in if the presenters complete their presentation before the time, some of the questions may be taken up from the attendees. So we will take a short, quick break for now. And as our first speaker comes up, so for 5 minutes, and then we will start again.
Until then, I request to all the participants, please enroll yourself on the NIDM training portal, because the certificate will be generated through online mode only. And if you are registered there, only then we can generate the certificates. So please register yourself on NIDM training portal. I am just sharing the link. Please go through the link and register yourself on the portal and enroll for the program. And if you already registered, just search for the program and enroll yourself.
Welcome back to our speakers and participants. Now we have our first speaker for the session on introduction to coastal ecosystems. I would like to welcome Dr. Shalini Dhyani, Senior Scientist at CSIR NIRI, India. She is a trained ecologist with work experience in forest ecosystems. She has been the South Asia Regional Chair for IUC and CEM, and she is a gold medalist from Forest Research Institute, Dehradun, and is currently involved in multidisciplinary long-term critical zone research. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Krishna Kali, for this warm welcome. I thank you and also thank Rika for this invitation. This program is on Sundarbans. While my career started with experience and exposure towards mangroves in Bhitarkanika. So I'll be sharing more of these experiences from there, but I'm sure the situations in East Coast are quite similar, and mangroves suffer a lot. So I think my work can bring you some instances that can help this audience and researchers in this area. So without much ado, I'll share my screen. Just the host has disabled participant screen sharing, so if you can enable this. And my apologies if my voice sounds a little hoarse. I'm down with cold, so can I share my screen? I'm not able to share my screen.
Yes, ma'am, we are asking our host to do that. Savita, if you can kindly give screen sharing access to Dr. Dhyani.
So I am able to now share my screen. Just confirm once you are able to see this.
Yes, ma'am, we are able to see.
Thank you. So good morning once again. And as you know, my job today is to make you aware about introduction to coastal ecosystems. I can see a lot of researchers and audience in the group are people who are aware of these ecosystems, but those who are not, I'm sure this will really help you. And we'll also try to make you aware about some of the important concerns of coastal ecosystems of India and why they are so relevant in the times of changing climate, increasing climate vulnerability, and disaster risks. Now, if you see this entire world, we have a huge area that is under mangroves. And if you see FSI reports for India also, there's a significant long coastline across the coast of India. So if you see more or less all the continents of the world, except a few, because mangroves are very tropical nature. So they are present in the tropical parts in South America, North America, Africa, Asia, Australia, and also Northeast Asia. And if you see, Southeast Asia has the largest mangrove cover of the world, with other contributions coming from North and Central America, South America, West and Central Asia, East and South Africa, and so on and so forth. And mangrove are basically present, as you can see, across the coastlines of about 124 tropical and subtropical countries. So that makes them a huge area that is covered by these mangroves, and they are part of some warm temperate coastlines as well. And they are mostly found, this is a very kind of a very important thing that you need to understand, that they are spread across approximately between 30° north and 30° south latitude. So that's a very important aspect of one who wants to start studying mangroves and find where there is the highest probability of finding the mangroves. Now, coming back to India, India has about 4,291 kilometers square of this long coastline and mangrove cover. And if you see, our east and west coast have very luxuriant mangrove cover, but at the same time, this is also the area that is required for the development of the country. So your port and jetties, your LNG terminals, these all are also coming in these areas. Then again, a lot of hydropower, thermal power projects, a lot of industrialization is happening in the coastal zone. And at the same time, as you see, West Bengal is the area where is about 43% of your mangrove cover. So Sundarban becomes very important because it's not only an important mangrove cover for the country, but it's an important transboundary landscape where Bangladesh and India share this important mangrove cover. And it's also famous for one of the important species of Sundari, one of the important mangrove species that is found here. Again, the neighboring Odisha in Bhitarkanika is another important mangrove cover, and this is famous for its high species diversity. So West Bengal and Odisha both are famous for their important species diversity, and important coastal mangrove covers are in Sundarbans, in Subarnekha Delta, in then Bhitarkanika, then Kitola Bay, Godavari Delta, Krishna Delta, Pichavaram, again the recent Ramsar site, then Muthupet. Andaman mangroves are special because they are island mangroves, and we have still very less amount of study done on island mangroves of the country. Then your Gulf of Kutch, Gulf of Kambat, Ullas River mouth at Konkan coast, Goa coast, Konkarna coast, and Kerala backwater. These are the important mangrove areas in the west coast of the country. So if you see, there has a very specific contribution coming from West Bengal, and at the same time, these are also the mangrove areas that are regularly being hit by enhanced climatic disturbance. So extreme climate events are continuously being affecting these mangroves. These mangroves are not only famous for their important trees, marshy areas, also about a lot of biodiversity that is present here, and especially the tradition and culture of people who are dwelling in these very extreme and stressed conditions. This is important biodiversity that you can find. So some of them are depicted here, but much more is that I am not able to comprehend and present you in one slide. So Avicennia officinalis, Avicennia marina, and so many other mangrove species, Xylocarpus granatum, are present. Then you have a lot of bird diversity, and many migratory birds visit these sites during November to March months. So this is also important bird sites and also wetlands of international importance. Then you have a lot of mammalian diversity. You have a lot of lichen, fungal, and other kind of diversity, and not to forget a lot of beautiful birds, beautiful fishes are also found in these ecosystems. So they all in total provide a beautiful landscape and habitat that is important for human well-being. Now we try to see some of the important aspects and multiple values of mangroves in Bhitarkanika, but I'm sure these studies are for West Bengal and for Sundarban Delta also, because they provide a lot of human well-being. And we try to see what kind of diverse benefits, diverse ecosystem services are there that these ecosystems are providing to countries, to human well-being, and for societal benefits. So a lot has been reported on coastal vulnerability reduction, and I'm sure this is important because these mangroves have found their pace, found their reputation back after tsunami hit the country, and it was only mangrove that helped to reduce frequency and intensity of tsunami and save a larger part of Tamil Nadu and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And again, if you see recent few years when Amphan, Yas, all those have hit east coast of the country, we know that mangroves have been a better shield to reduce this coastal vulnerability. Then, of course, they are very good source of blue carbon. We know there is a lot of blue carbon that is stored, and why it is important because it's 10 times more larger than what we find from terrestrial ecosystem. So one thing is that these marshy islands, these marsh areas in the mangroves reduces oxidation of oxygen and emission and carbon dioxide and its emission back to the environment. So in this way, these carbon can be stored and stocked in the sediments of mangrove soil for larger time. So this blue carbon becomes important also in the times when we know that climate COP has just concluded, and there is a lot of interest and promises of government of India and other countries as well to save and support nationally determined contribution coming from these forest areas and tree outside forest areas. Then, of course, a lot of provisioning benefits that I will be talking in the forthcoming slides. Pollination benefits, we all know that some of the best honeys are coming from mangrove areas, but we rarely discuss about these pollinator benefits and ecosystem services of pollination coming from mangrove. Then we all know that over the years, over the decades, salinity ingress has been a major issue. So how mangroves have been helping for coastal salinity reduction is another context that is very multiple value system from coming from mangrove. Then, of course, cultural, the aesthetic, the religious, the recreational, the place-based attachment, the sense of belongingness that gives people an understanding and involvement with nature is something that's very relevant. Again, a least talked area for the country India. Sediment trapping, nutritional transport reduction, nutrition trapping. These are another important areas that we found are less discussed in comparison to provisioning and coastal vulnerability reduction. So coming back to important provisioning benefits, if you see in all these mangrove systems, not only across India, but across the world, there are so many important local vegetables. And if you see, when we talk about closing the loop of sustainability of, for example, with reference to biodiversity, what I observed was that people are actually preferring a lot of these lesser known underutilized wild edibles as nutritional security, for their food security, for as a future food, for so many other benefits. So they also reduce a lot of pressure on land for agriculture. So there are a lot of these preferred local vegetables. Then in Odisha, there is one rice substitute that also comes from mangrove area. Then honey producing plants, a lot of these plants, Avicennia marina, then Syrops decandra are important for honey production. And some good quality mangrove, good quality honey comes out from these mangrove species. Then fodder, we know that people living around mangrove areas are mostly and many times marginalized communities. So the support of fodder also come from mangrove areas. They also get some dead wood, logs and snags in these areas that can be used as fuel wood. A lot of good construction material is being used. Wood for making boats. So the boats are also made of mangrove or other wood that are present in these areas. Then so many others, they make baskets and these storage articles from Nalia grass. So that's a kind of grass that grows near mangrove areas. So in totality, if you see a lot of a variety of these provisioning direct use values support for the functioning of these village ecosystems. So there is a lot of biomass that flows from these mangrove ecosystem to support village ecosystem on the verges of these areas. Then if you see this important carbon stock projection for the country, you can see a lot of these studies have been done for different parts of the country. But if you see the kind of carbon stocks that is stored in mangroves are substantially high in Tamil Nadu, then also in other parts like Odisha, Gujarat. So this also depends on the kind of studies that have been reviewed and the kind of methodologies that were used. For example, there are methodologies of using remote sensing or destructive harvesting method or non-destructive harvesting method. So they all provide different arrays and ways of projecting carbon stocks for these states and these mangrove areas. But at the same time, you will be really interested to know that there is a lot of sediment carbon stock that is stored in the soil in the marshy areas of mangrove that is substantially high. So this makes them ideal places to be conserved, to be restored, so that countries' targets are met, and at the same time, communities are also protected from extreme climate events. So when I talk about extreme climate event, we know pandemic was there, and at the similar time, these cyclones were hitting the country, be it Amphan or being it Yas. So there were a lot of these calamities that were happening in the country. So this is high time that not only the policy makers or bureaucrats, but also foresters, academicians, scientists, researchers, they all think that what kind of approaches can be done to restore back these mangroves, because this can be the only protective and effective shield against these kind of disasters and extreme climate events. We may have some kind of boundary walls, but then again, boundary walls cannot be a sufficient support. So there have been tremendous protection across the world that have been analyzed, quantified how these mangroves provide protection to local people. So one thing is they have reduced human casualties, and this has been a lot of studies from Tamil Nadu or Indonesia or Odisha where human lives were saved because they had healthy mangrove ecosystems on the boundary areas. Then of course we know that wind waves can be reduced by almost 50%. So this was reported in one of the studies where 40 to 80 meter width of mangrove zone can actually reduce 50% of wind wave. Then it also has possibility of reducing the wind speed if there are more than 40 to 80 meter of width of these mangroves, that is 50 meter away from mangrove forest. And this was reported from China. So they found that reduction of these wind speed was by 53 to 64%. Now, this is an important finding. And at the same time, those who know when Amphan and Yas hit the country, the coastal part of the country, we know that intensity that was coming from Bangladesh part was quite high. But the intensity and the speed that hit Kolkata was quite less. And this was substantially reduced because we had Sundarbans as our coastal shield. Then, of course, tsunami flow. We know it has been reduced by 90% and more. If we have almost 100 meters square of density and more than 100 meter of width of bed. So they have certain kind of density and width that needs to be there if we want to reduce these kind of extreme climate events. But at the same time, we need to understand that ongoing development is actually reducing this width and density in the natural forest mangrove ecosystem. Then, of course, pressure can be reduced. Storm surges have been reported to be reduced. Inundation area can be reduced, and inundation depth can be reduced. So these have been reporting and collection of these studies from across the world, especially from the areas where mangroves are present predominantly and having high density of mangroves. So be it Indonesia, Thailand, China, US, they all have been collectively and proved that there has been a significant protection from these mangrove to the coastal areas. Now, if you see one of the example of cyclone, especially the 1999 cyclone that hit Odisha, the larger cyclones, we know that Kendrapara, that is having the highest and densest amount of mangrove, especially in Bhitarkanika and nearby areas, was one of the areas that could be saved because of mangrove intensity. So there was less disaster risk, there was less loss of lives, there was less damage to the nearby villages in comparison to Balasore, Bhadrak and Jagatsinghpur villages areas. So this is a significant consideration and contribution of mangroves that has been provided to local well-being and disaster risk reduction. So this can be a very good example of ecosystem-based approach, and mangroves very well show that. Now, if you see forest types of India, you know that Champion and Seth were the first ones to give forest types of India. But over the years, what has happened, we have agriculture intensification in the country. We also have a lot of degradation, loss of forest areas, and this is quite significant in the coastal areas as well. So our forests no more look like the forest we had in the early after freedom, after independence. More of our forest areas are now mixed forest formations, local specific monocultures, plantations, woodland, degraded formations, grasslands, managed ecosystem. And this is the case also with mangroves. Those who know, if you talk to the people who are elderly in mangrove coastal areas, you'll find they will tell that mangroves have depleted over the time. There are more invasive species encroaching these landscapes, and that's quite prevalent and very much across the country and across the world. Now, if I want to look at the drivers of biodiversity loss of mangrove ecosystem, I think there are many direct drivers. Economics is playing a big role. Population rise is playing another important role. Socio-political reasons, cultural and religious reasons, but in a very, very smaller way. And then, of course, science and technology. So this has led to another kind of indirect drivers. So this can be habitat degradation because of, industrialization or kind of infrastructure buildup or development. And then, of course, climate change. I was talking about it. Increase in extreme climate events is also leading to a lot of loss of mangrove areas. And climate change is also leading to a lot of invasives finding way inside dense and degraded mangrove areas. Then over-harvesting, though a lot of these mangrove areas in the coastal part of the country are now declared protected areas. So over-harvesting by communities is quite less incidences, but at the same time, there are definitely incidences where non-enforcement of mangrove conservation policies or coastal zone regulation policies have also resulted in over-harvesting of resources. Pollution, that already then the coastal areas of country are also used as a big dumping yard for these pollutants coming from the land area and being dumped in the marine zone. So again, pollution is rising very fast, and that's leading to eutrophication. Then having a lot of pesticides coming from aquaculture in the nearby areas. Brick kilns are also in these areas. Then pesticides used in agriculture, microplastics coming to, then endocrine disrupting hormone. You can find everything right now in coastal and mangrove areas. So what can be done basically? We all realize, we acknowledge that undegraded mangroves have this potential to give us all the benefit that I spoke about in my previous slide. But at the same time, if we keep on degrading these mangroves for different economic and greeds, there will be time we'll not have storm surge and extreme event protection, we'll not have safe habitat, we'll have disaster risk more. We might also have these impacts of climate change, sea level rise, and so on and so forth. So for that, there is importance that we not only frame appropriate policies, we also generate awareness among people who are dwelling closer to mangrove areas, urban areas, and also people who are living in distant areas to understand how important, how vital these ecosystems are. And they might also be going through some kind of hidden collapse. So as I discussed briefly in my previous slide, the major drivers, if you see across East Coast or West Coast, are some of these are agriculture, illegal agriculture, aquaculture expansion. Then you have pollution coming due to fertilizers being used both in aquaculture as well as hormones used in aquaculture. Then you have fertilizers used in nearby agriculture field, increase in and expanding urban areas, upcoming industries, ports and jetties, fertilizer plants. And then, of course, these areas are also being, enjoyed by a lot of tourists for their recreational aesthetic benefits. Then at the same time, climate change is also leading to migration of communities. So there is land degradation, there is agriculture land turning to salinity ingress, unproductive land, wasteland. So that is also leading to a lot of refugee crises in these areas, and that's quite prevalent. You talk about this Western Sundarbans, if you could talk about Sundarbans or you talk about Bhitarkanika, that's quite very common. Then poaching of wildlife, illegal trading of therapeutic plants. We know that a lot of these wild animals, a lot of wild fishes, a lot of wild plants are being poached and trafficked for their therapeutic benefits. Then, of course, fuel wood and firewood and timber wood for people who are marginalized, who cannot afford and buy these things. they also depend significantly on these mangrove areas. Then invasive species, as I mentioned, and then not to miss on human-wildlife conflict. You know that Sundarban is also the area where your man-eater tigers are there. So there is a lot of human-wildlife conflict. Then crop depredation, then human killings, then your livestock killings. They are very quite common across the coastal area. So these are important concerns and mega drivers of mangrove loss. And two important ones, as I mentioned, because of climate change, direct drivers are sea level rise, cyclones, and sea surges. Now, one can ask, though is the one who is living distant from mangroves, that we are still safe and we might not be facing any kind of sea level rise. But if you know that there are many coastal areas, parts of Sundarbans and part of Odisha, where the land is being swallowed by, and the land in these villages is being swallowed by the sea. So this is alarming and this is significant. We need to talk more about that because we need to understand climate change is happening. It's real and it is here. And our coastal areas are very much threatened because of this sea level rise. Now, this is one of the pictures that just to show you. You can see these red color plants and bushes. So these are Sueda macrophylla and other plants that are now invading these areas of mangroves. And these are kind of invasive species that are more salinity tolerant and they're growing. And then you have a lot of degradation, a lot of extreme climate event that is leading to drying up or degradation of mangrove patches. So these kind of things are becoming more frequent. I'm sure these are very much frequent even in West Coast also and East Coast also. Now, one of the things what as scientists we have done is we have this good understanding of using the models to develop scenarios to understand what kind of future of our mangroves will be in next 20 years by 2050 or by 2070 as per IPCC RCP scenarios. But what we tried to look was, instead of we putting some literature review to understand and project the scenarios, we tried to do participatory scenario development. We tried to understand from people living in these areas who are local stakeholders, what kind of scenario can be there if we understand what kind of drivers of mangrove loss are actually persisting there. So this was a more of a story and simulation approach that we were using. And for this, we try to look to what kind of ongoing conservation strategies are there. I know Sundarbans has a lot of ongoing conservation strategies, both from transboundary areas, and it's a very important landscape ecosystem for both the countries. And at the same time, what kind of policy challenges we have, what kind of, for example, your climate change, sea level rise, change in hydrological regime, policy status, CRZ, new amendments are coming up. And then what are the stakeholder opinions? Because overall, this gives us a better understanding of what kind of drivers are there, what kind of scenarios will emerge. So we try to understand what kind of benefits are appreciated of mangrove by local people in reducing cyclone and hazard, what kind of provisioning benefit people are still enjoying and they think might get vulnerable if all these risks are taking place. So for participatory scenario generation, we try to understand 3 scenarios as per our RCP. What kind of, if there is economic development without protecting mangroves, and more or less this is what is happening in the country. So there will be more expansion, infrastructure build up, aquaculture and agriculture. So there will be more build up, more aquaculture, and over a period of time reducing mangroves. So this is what the scenarios will be. Slowly built up areas will take over mangrove areas. Then there is a scenario where economic development with concern to mangrove protection. So this is the area where both mangrove conservation and development takes simultaneously. So we have consideration for development, but at the same time, we also consider that mangroves are a very important area and that should be protected for future. And there is a third important area, improved socioeconomic factors, because what I didn't talk in my previous slide was the socioeconomic driver, marginalization of communities. If there is socioeconomic disparity, issues, there are high chances that this hidden driver can actually be a game changer and lead to a lot of loss of mangrove. So if there is improved socioeconomic factor, there are chances that people, communities will also consider and involve to this movement of mangrove conservation, restoration, and protection. So this is important that if you want to have more optimistic scenarios for future, we need to understand that while we do development, while we do government-centered protection, public funded protection program, we also ensure that the policies that address local socioeconomic factors, be it Manrega, where communities and people are paid wages against the labor for different environmental and socioeconomic problems. So there are about 250 different activities of Manrega. So if there are about 25 that are for conservation or protection, so that can be really helpful in ensuring that the scenarios are less pessimistic and more optimistic. So, for example, if you see these kinds of mangrove areas, this is example from Vitarkanika, you see more and bigger settlements are coming up, grazing is happening, more livestock holding, and then of course aquaculture is leading to these contaminated waters coming back to coastal areas, then mushrooming resorts for basically local livelihood. But what can be a better alternative, safe livelihood for communities that still need to be thought about? Then agriculture intensification, because of salinity ingress, more and more fertilizers are used. Again, the contamination and toxicity is going to the mangrove areas. And when the agriculture, the land is turned barren or infertile, a lot of community people are also turning to brick kilns. Now, again, this is under unsustainable short-term practice that will not be very sustainable in mangrove developed area. So this is a scenario that's very common across the world. You can see that slowly that aquaculture are now coming, and then your agriculture intensification also happening in areas closer to mangroves. Forest is being cleared, and then there are a lot of aquaculture farms. So if you visit any of these areas, any of the mangrove areas across the country, you will find these aquaculture farms are predominantly present, and there are settlements that are now fragmenting these forest areas. Now, these are the community level interventions that are happening and acting as drivers. There are other drivers like expansion of roads for different strategic needs of the country. So they are coming on the cost of mangrove. We have these bigger conveyor belts, and then you have industrial complexes, fertilizer industries, LNG ports, terminals that are the mega drivers that are having a havoc on these natural mangrove ecosystem. So we tried to understand, as per Intergovernmental Panel Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, they have given 5 direct drivers. So we tried to not only look to the scientifically projected drivers, we also tried to see what communities have to say about that. So based on that, we came up with this 2 important publications. This is one that is more on what researchers have been saying over the years, but we also tried to see what are the evidence-based driver assessment for Vitarkanika. So those who are interested can look to this publication. And when we understood this East Coast, we also tried to look to the West Coast of the country. Now, there are some similar problems, but at the same time, some dissimilar problems of mangrove drivers. For example, if you see mangroves in Kochi in Kerala, you know, there are many mangrove areas that are privately owned. At the same time, there is expansion and urbanization that is taking place. Kerala is more of a very densely packed state where you get really less space for anything. So this urbanization, privatization has also led to a loss of mangroves in this part. So while in just almost 20 to 30 years, Kochi has lost almost 90% mangroves that were existing. And you know, Kochi at one point of time was one of the significant places where mangroves were predominantly present. So over the time, there is just 10% of mangrove that is now remaining in Kochi. Now, if you see the potential drivers of mangrove in West Coast, especially coming from Kerala, this becomes important because participatory survey really gives us an understanding what people think about the mega drivers. So lack of awareness. Of course, this is a very important aspect across the country, across the coastal states. Lack of awareness. People still don't understand how important these mangroves are. Increasing tourism increasing plastic pollution, deforestation, and of course, land use, land cover change, exponential growth in population, urbanization, and coastal. So these are some of the important areas that people in Kochi think that can be a mega stressors for mangroves in West Coast. Then exponential growth, as you see, every state, every area living closer to mangroves is facing exponential population growth like any other part of the country. So this will exert a major pressure on these mangrove areas. So again, we published this interesting chapter from K. Kochi. So those who are interested can have a look to it. Now, after understanding these scenarios, what we did, these drivers, we integrated all these drivers into Invest to understand what kind of scenarios we'll develop. I'll not go in detail of that science, but we developed land use, land cover scenarios. We also developed blue carbon scenarios. We also developed sediment scenarios, and then nutritional support scenarios. And we found that if we have business as usual with no consideration to conservation and socio-economic addressing issues of communities, what they need in terms of livelihood, in terms of gender requirements, in terms of participation options, there are high chances that mangroves will be reduced, land use will change, there will be more intensification and infrastructure build up. And there are also chances, because this land use will change, mangroves will reduce, blue carbon will also reduce from these areas. There will be less tendency of these landscapes to trap sediment, to trap nutrition that is coming from high upstream areas. So we developed this scenario-based quantification of land use and its impact on major ecosystem services like blue carbon, your sediment trapping, and nutritional trapping. So this is a study that will be quite important in other mangrove areas as well. Now, I have not showed one publication that we did for Sundarbans, and it was basically a collaborative effort with IGS Japan under a APN project, and it was a characterization of non-material values of multiple coastal production landscapes across Sundarbans. So this is a publication in 2020 that we did in Sustainability Science. And we tried to now work on the similar aspect, identifying what people think are important cultural places, recreational areas, ecotourism sites in Bhitarkanika, and what are the other, as per local people, what are important as per their place-based attachment or sense of belongingness that they feel. There might be some temples that might be important landscape, and what tourists feel are important in terms of recreational benefit. So we did one for Sundarban, and this is the second that we are doing for Bhitarkanika. So overall, because I think I have less time now, it's high time whatever I discussed about mangroves, we understand that there is risk actually, and the intensity of risk is going to increase in coming years, and this will further increase disaster risk. And at the same time, we don't have enough time. If you see how carbon IPCC COPs are going on, they always talk about less time we have, less than 7 years, less than 9 years. If we have to stop and ensure that we don't go and rise above 1.5 degrees centigrade, but now we are also thinking and talking about 2.4 and even 3 degrees centigrade. So that means we actually don't have even time. We are even not having a decade of time with us to conserve and protect these values of mangroves. And we also need to reimagine that there is a need to actually involve different stakeholder groups. India has to fight a lot of these concerns, and at the same time, a lot of promises have to be kept, be it land degradation neutrality, bond challenge for forest landscape restoration, or NDCs. And at the same time, we also need to understand we cannot have and plant mangroves everywhere. There has to be a very judicious choice, scientific planning, a way how communities have been doing it that has to be followed. And at the same time, placing and planting right species at the right place for the right purpose and through a right-based approach. That is something that can help us. Now, some of the very last concluding thoughts. There has to be some kind of multi-criteria optimization approach to identify where priorities areas should be there for mangroves. We know that The Bond Challenge has given Rome approach to identify which are the hotspots. But if you have to go for Sundarbans or Bhitarkanika or Kochi or Gulf of Khambat, I think that knowledge comes through local participation, that knowledge comes through local researchers who are in these landscapes regularly, who know these areas, who know these hotspots, and ensuring that people-centric approaches are there that consider local communities, indigenous people, their knowledge, and how this knowledge can help. Because sometimes this hybrid knowledge framework can really help this entire process. Then, of course, we have some of the good policies in the world. We have some good written, drafted legislation that this country has, but we still don't have enough policies that incentivize ecosystem restoration. A community person don't have interest in carbon stocks. He doesn't have interest in forest landscape restoration. What interest he has is in the daily livelihood or alternative income or the food that he is going to get. So if these kind of legislation comes that incentivize ecosystem restoration, I think that can help not only conserve, protect, restore mangrove areas, but also ensure that there is less migration from these areas. And this can be developed by some kind of good corporate community partnerships where academic organizations, scientific and R&D organizations can play a very big role of linking both communities and corporate. Then convergence, we all know that there is a lot of good work our government and different government line departments are doing, but still there is a lack of convergence. So convergence is something that really can help this entire aspect. And of course, private sector financing. I talked about it through corporate community partnership. And then we definitely do some good mangrove restoration. But how much monitoring we are doing, the kind of big data that we are generating, are we learning something out of it? Are we ensuring that plantation is not enough? Post-plantation care has to be more emphasized, more considered, more given priority and importance. This can really help the entire process and approach of sustainable land restoration in mangrove areas. With this, I thank you all for giving this opportunity to speak, and I'll happy to take a few questions if you have any. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am, for this excellent presentation, for elaborating on the drivers of biodiversity and loss of mangrove ecosystems and the future potentials through participatory action and the need to involve stakeholders. Dear participants, if you have any questions for Dr. Dhyani, please add them in the chat and we will be able to answer some of them.
Well, I don't have any question, but Dr. Dhyani, I am really impressed with the presentation you have made. I am Dr. Garima Agarwal from NIDM, and basically NIDM and RICA is planning to work on this particular aspect together to do a kind of joint research. So can you just, I mean, it was a quite elaborative, and I really felt that I got to know about the real issues which are over there, as I have never been to this place. Can you just guide me in one thing, which are the areas you think in West Bengal are more fragile and of which we can actually conduct some community activity to, to learn from that experiences, how this, issue is impacting their lives. So any area specific, some districts or something like which you think are more fragile and should be started?
Garima ji, thank you for this word of appreciation. I really feel encouraged that I was able to impart some understanding on mangrove. I think I will not be the right person to suggest you about Sundarbans, but what in general I can tell you, you have to start from somewhere. And meeting everybody in the field site is also not possible. You also understand those limitations. So one good thing is wherever you start from, and I think if you start interacting with communities, and this definitely takes time, those who are field workers, they will tell you, it's not like we go there and we get something out of it. It's like regular interaction. When they feel at home and when they feel comfortable to share what they feel about these landscapes. That really helps. So starting from anywhere can help. And at the same time, sitting with communities, what I'll suggest you, instead of going with a questionnaire survey, if you plan some meetings where you can have a day spent with them, and these communities, for us, these meetings are important. For them, these meetings are not at all important, because one way or other, NGOs, government, they all are going and meeting these people. Researchers are coming to them. So something that helps them with livelihood, if we have that kind of suggestions, that can really help them to melt down, be comfortable, and share their experiences. So something that's true for Bhitarkanika, because I know that a lot of migrants from Sundarban also come to Bhitarkanika. They also do a lot of brick kilns. They also run agriculture in these areas. So I think these kind of conflicts are there in Sundarbans also and Bhitarkanika also. So if you speak to these people, I gave you a broader perspective on what kind of concerns will be there. So there will be community specific concerns. I talked about gender. Your course is going to look to gender also. Your course might also look to intergenerational partnerships. So that kind of understanding you'll get to know, very local, customized if you're there on ground. But broadly, these issues are going to be there. Your aquaculture, your agriculture intensification, salinity ingress, brick kilns, gender disparity because of marginalization. These are the very common issues. And this will be there in Sundarbans, Bhitarkanika, then your Odisha, Goa. So these are very much prevalent across the coastal areas. But I think you may start somewhere. And we have a couple of publications that if you wish, I can share to you so that you can look more. Because people are concerned more about their cultural values and the forest they get benefits, direct use values. So for example, if there is a temple or there is a sacred patch, they feel more concerned to conserve those patches. So some of that can give you an understanding on what they consider as hotspot that we don't consider as hotspots. I hope I could address some of your.
Definitely. And I wish you early recovery from this COVID. And
No, I don't have COVID. I have just cold.
Okay. I heard that COVID.
No, it's cold. Maybe I'm so hoarse right now. My voice is so hoarse. I'm not able to properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Just no question, only regards and appreciation for the nice and say coverage of the subject area from the viewpoint of studies being taken up by you as well as globally, and also highlighting that what are the vulnerabilities are there and what kind of interventions are important there, so that and what are causing more and more increase in vulnerability in the Sundarban area, especially in the mangrove area. So that way, I think this entire participants on behalf of that, and also the kind of project that NIDM and RICA has taken up. So your presentation, and also you are holding a chair position in the South Asia IUCN. So in that case, I think your association will be really helpful for us. And I know your ex-colleague is here with us, Dr. Gupta.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. I think it's a pleasure to see you in person. I mean, virtually, we met in person. Yeah. And thank you so much for those remarks. Yes, I know he's there. And I
Good
hope.
Afternoon. I have a question, just concern.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay, please.
I am Madhusmita. I am from Odisha, and my district is also from Kendrapada district. So rising of prawn gheris near the river bank of that Kendrapada, that mangrove area, is also a major concern for that destruction of ecosystem or biodiversity.
Thank you, Madhusmita ji. I think a very important question that you have raised. IUCN Commission on Ecosystem is actually running a parallel group on ecosystem-based aquaculture. The kind of aquaculture and gheris that we are having right now in most of the coastal areas are very commercial. A lot of time these gheris are being given hormones that increase fish productivity, sizes and all. So that are very hazardous because, you know, most of these hormones for human beings are endocrine disrupting hormones. And some of them are also persistent organic pollutants. So many of these people who are involved with these gheris in aquaculture, they're not so aware about these harmful toxics and contaminants that are entering these coastal areas. So indeed, yes, there are different approaches, different ways to understand how ecosystem-based approaches for sustainable aquaculture can be there. And if you're interested, I'm sure we can have sometime else we can plan a lecture because we have the group lead from India only. But I think right now this is out of more discussion. But yes, ecosystem-based approaches are very well there. And
Thank
they
you.
definitely, the kind of practice that is running now is, you know, you also know that Kendrapada in all these districts,
Yes.
there is a whole mafia network also involved in these illegal gheris that are running.
Yes.
So that's very, very harmful, not only for the mangrove areas, but also for communities who are living in the fringes of mangroves. And one way or other, we are going to make our ecosystem, especially mangroves and coastal areas, more eutrophicated, more having persistent organic pollutants that will slowly encroach our food chains and will contaminate the entire food chain. So in that way, awareness is one thing, but at the same time ensuring, and if you also know that government also has some of these legislations where these illegal gheris are banned, they are prohibited, but still in many parts of Kendrapada and other areas, these illegal gheris are running and creating havoc on natural ecosystem of Bhitarkanika.
Yes, ma'am. That gheris are also owned by that political person. So political will is very much necessary to act on this issue.
So thank you so much. I would like to take leave because I have another meeting lined up and that already started some 8 minutes back. Thank you so much. And I look forward if you need any other further suggestions, please do write to me. You have my email on my last slide. Thank you so much and goodbye and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Anybody, if having any queries about this particular session, can give your queries in the chat box. We will forward the questions to Dr. Dhyani. Moving forward, we have our next session on physical and natural infrastructure in Sundarban. It will be the speaker for the session will be Dr. Chandan Ghosh, Head Resilience Infrastructure Division, NIDM, MHA, Government of India. Dr. Ghosh has a wide experience in working with earth picture technology, bioengineering measures for sustainable development, and has devoted more than 30 years of his career in UG and PG teaching of courses. So, sir, we give the floor to you.
सर आपकी वॉइस नहीं आ रही है। एक-एक करके करते हैं। हवा से आ गया ये आ रहे हैं।
Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay. So thank you, Krishna Kali. And also, my previous speaker has elaborated a lot about the mangrove and what are the studies going on, what are the research publication they have been doing. And we have noted them well. And I take from something on the different perspective, but which is also relevant to the life and vulnerabilities, that which is more on infrastructures, whether it is, we should go for infrastructure or not, but with a little, I would say, rather little bit of sarcastic way of looking at that the figure that you are seeing, the climate change and greenhouse gases emission, and where there are lots of publication. Of course, whenever something is going on in the globe, nobody can deny the climate change, but change for what and what we want, that is very important. So in that case, you can see that adapting with climate change in Sundarbans. Now, how to adapt that? Things are happening and projections are there for maybe up to 2100, another 60, 70, 80 years. Projections are there. Hundreds of models are there, computer models, and many parameters are being added: social, technical, environmental, livelihood, and so many ways that we have been able to define the vulnerability and addressing them and taking some of the measures, especially in the Sundarban area or even all the coastal areas in the world. And so in that case, now we have to live with that, but at the same time, there are some legislation, coastal regulation zones, act, rules, all have come up. And still, we are seeing that the mangrove forestations, they are being destroyed, or even new habitations are taking up. Even many development projects are also going on. So there should be a balance between what development we have to take place and which are the area we have to preserve, which are the area that we should cultivate, and where human settlement has to be allowed, where infrastructure has to allow, and in what way that they should. And then the people that who are already living for their several decades or since generations, then how to preserve them. So there are lots of paper and publications and forum through which these issues are being highlighted, and some of the very important projects are also taken up. Now, all those things are available, but I would like to say that now, when problem is there, then where we should address it and how to address it. If adaptation to climate change is only reducing the greenhouse gases to the extent possible and still living in this earth to make it really meaningful, then you can see a contrasting experiment being made, keeping that whatever is the current level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere across the globe, global average, whatever it is, 419.20 or whatever it is. And then keeping this living, because we are talking about our survival has become a question. So how to make our survival, or how to justify our survival rather, which has come to a stake due to the climate change that being caused by several agencies of in the name of development, or in the name of expansion, or in the name of accommodation, or in the name of whatever adaptation that we have been making. So I will look into only a few aspects that, like, when living, when this carbon dioxide level is increased, you can see sizable difference between that, where living has become possible and plausible. And we want more production. We want more productions. In that case, it is just only example that which is characteristically here shown, that with the increase in carbon dioxide, even we are getting more and more fish productions and other things. Or on the other hand, even such kind of things, the increase in carbon dioxide, even this creature also getting into more height. So is it that only we should look at that adaptation in the variable climate, especially in the Sundarban area or coastal area, we should look at only more production in this, or can we justify entire scenario of the climate change just by doing an experiment in a closed environment and seeing that, oh, we are getting more production, so the people living in the poor people, the living in the coastal area, they can be benefited by producing more and more such kind of water fruits. We call it water fruits in the sea water or even normal water near the coastal area. But this is not that. This is only one aspect that we like, but the whole scenario is really complex. when we see that Indian side of Sundarban area, which is about 10,000 square kilometer, which is about 1/3, 2/3 is in Bangladesh. And I have put some red spot over here, and especially looking at that due to cyclone Yash or Amphan, or many, this time we didn't have. In fact, where we have been observing for the last almost decade or two that ferocity of the cyclone are increasing, intensity also increasing, means and also frequency also increasing. But this year, in fact, we didn't have any significant cyclone. Last year we had number of them. But thing is, let cyclone come on its own course, and we are having the warning system even few days before, and we have got monumental success in reducing the loss of life and other things. But what is more important now? Okay, life loss we have minimized. At the same time, we have to see that here this one is Calcutta, and this is about 100 kilometers from here. So this is the and all this area here, Hooghly River here, it is getting tidal water which comes around on an average 4 meter, 5 meter. So you can see about 100 kilometer, 125, 30 or 150 kilometer over here. If 4 meter of tidal water can go up to hinterland up to these, and it is mixing up with the, here it rains. When rainwater comes, they all carried by this river to the sea, and it mixes up with the Bay of Bengal. In that case, then what kind of impact that being caused to the people living nearby the coastal area? By putting embankment. Now, there are many phases of embankment being made, which is being emphasized, and there are pros and cons of putting up those embankments also. And every year, the kind of losses that we are seeing, that embankment, their structure and their vulnerability is causing more ooze than what it is solving. And those are being becoming now a different cycle of economy. Now we have to look at that, what kind of measures that would be enough, that like if we are able to, I'll show later on, if we are able to make, here it is about maybe say 500 meter or maybe 1 kilometer. If 1 kilometer of this area is placed with a barrage or some kind of control gates and other things, which I'll show later on some of the measures taken elsewhere, even in the country also it is being done. Not only limited to dock area, like in Calcutta dock area, there are certain kind of control gates or things are there, dry dock area and other things. But we have to extend and think beyond that. If we want to have a control of flood area here, Calcutta is also gets flooded when it rains for half an hour. We have taken several measures over here, putting heavy palms and making embankment along this river over here. But when we will have a control over this, especially during cyclone, when tidal waves and surge and storm surge comes together, and then it becomes several meter, maybe 4 meter, maybe 7 meter, 8 meter in critical cases. So in that case, they can be controlled from here. I'm not saying that full prevention, but some control of that waves can be made over here by putting small, maybe 20 meter, 30 meter, 50 meter, depending on what is the stretch. So that this hinterland over here can be saved from the inundation of the salt water, which is a major problem that due to every cyclone it happens. When we have to see that when a 4 meter, which is hardly a little above than a 1-story building of wave heights, which will be very much, hostile over here, very much virulent over here. But when they enter over here, when we put somewhere here across this water lane, such kind of embankment and put it with scientifically, and we know the science and engineering behind that, putting this embankment, then we can save entire of this area, especially when cyclone comes or storm surge comes. So such kind of measures, even though taken in some cases, those have to be revisited from the stake that we have to take over. So some of these probable areas where we can think of after thorough research and survey and data and then last 30-40 years of data that taken over this, then this can be taken up to save this area from the saltwater level inundation due to regular tide or during cyclone. Now we have got many study report, even recent study report also, that they are highly vulnerable to storm surges. So in the background of that what kind of measures to be taken, which I'm going to give some example of that. And so context is whether it is urban flood or storm surge, it is happening all around the globe, especially in the last 2-3 decades. And they are more frequent and virulent. So, and management and attitude issues are many. Then damage and loss are colossal. And flood or storm surge protection measures using natural way, which I'm going to highlight. And storage of surplus water, especially rainwater, how to store the surplus water on the riverbed, in the canal, or even in the ocean, like it is called foldable reservoir. It is called even flexible reservoir in the ocean area, or in the how this sweet water or rainwater or extra water, which is going to see them meet the sea every year. 85% or 80% of our sweet water or rainwater, we are blessed with that, but we are not able to hold them, whatever canal system or whatever barrage or whatever like reservoir dam that we are having, or whatever aquifer that they are getting naturally filled up during rainy season in the 3-4 months. But majority of them, as 80% of them are going to meet the sea, then in that case, even little bit of storage of that water will help our not only in the coastal area, or even there are international effort is being made that well, the rivers are there, and when they are carrying this water into the sea, then we are not able to use them. And we know that how difficult it is, even though there are some saline resistant crops or agricultures are there, or pisciculture are also there, but rather sweetwater fish or even saltwater fish and some of the saline resilient crops, which are rare, but they are not easily affordable or not being spread so much. But sweetwater agriculture, which is the main livelihood, and also fish, that which is the main livelihood in the people that who are living over here, that can be looked into. So now, what are the way that we can save? Not everywhere in the Sundarban we can put, because they are this kind of structure we cannot put in the Sundarban because it is an eco-sensitive zone. So I'm not suggesting this thing, but what are the coastal area that can be protected? There are several such structural measures are there across the globe. Even some of these measures in Karaikal in Kerala, about 15 years back when I visited, this kind of wall. These are, extra protections wall that which are provided, but they themselves are vulnerable due to the sea waves. So these are some kind of work that which are not that much effective enough, and it is also very much costly. But when we take some dikes or flood wall, levee, bomb, saline embankment, these are saline embankment. It is a special embankment that even if overtopping happens, then it should have some avenues that through which that salt water can pass through. It happens in every cyclone that there are embankments are there, but surge water or storm surge water, they overtop in some way, or they not everywhere embankments are aligned or they are healthy enough. So in that case, those salt water release, or they go back, they do not easily go back to the sea because of the inappropriate arrangement of their drainage to go back to the sea. But when such kind of embankments are there, or levee, bombs, or these kind of things are there, when natural protection this way they are made, then they become, with proper slope and proper walking track or other things, so that they can be taken care of if any kind of leakage or anything is, they can be managed very well, maintained very well. or such kind of things where even motorable roads are also there. Then even with such kind of grass, natural grass or local grass, they can be grown over here, and then we can have a proper alignment of the river or even coastal line, not by this kind of measures, but a combination of these measures and the combination of that hard measures, like locally it is being called, concrete and riprap and other things. A combination of that could help that protecting, or even canal and other things where, storm water pass through, or even through dam that when they are passed, then we have many such canal structures are also there to take care. Now, water can be stopped temporarily or for longer period, or maybe for few days, few hours. So it's some kind of temporary barriers like this, which are also not so costly, and though for this no specialized equipment or skill is required. It is only put this one above the others, or even in the area that where it is likely to flood, then this can be protected from the water, or this can be used by the householders also, where water can be. This is for, easily these are available in the market, in Indian market also. Many foreign companies are also there. This can be used even in especially urban area or especially coastal cities that were due to heavy rainfall, that those can be put into action by individual. For that, no specialized job is there. Even many cases when storm water or everything is there, whatever serviceable roads are there, they go out of the aqua dam. This is what is aqua dam. So they can be placed so that communication by road is being maintained. And so there are many examples across the globe, and the material that which is being used over here, I'll show a little more detail about that. They are geomembrane. They are the byproducts of this crude oil processing things, and which are plenty of them are available, and we manufacture a lot from the crude oil process industry. One of the byproduct as a geosynthetics. You see that in what way they can be even stored water, aqua dam, and how they are putting a barrier to save this house. Or even in this manner also, that some portion, wherever we see that, because we have been doing a lot of GIS and contour mapping that we have been doing. And with that, we are able to know, or even in the previous occurrences, which are the low-lying area. And without going into conventional practice of making dams by earth or even grass, you see that how quickly that portion, that vulnerable portions after identification, they can be restored or they can be saved. This area can be saved. So these are all quick fix measure, but no foreign material is available. It is only filled up with water. Of course, these are very much good enough, like we are using in many of our rooftop storage water tanks and other things. It is in a flexible one. So there are varieties of specifications are available. So some of the preventive measures or some of the adaptive measures can be taken up by this flexible membrane. Here it is for used as a dam, but in other cases, which I'm going to show, they can be used. You see that they can be filled up with any material, not always that, because they are non-porous, and we either fill up with water, which is plenty available, or fill up with whatever sand or dressed material, whichever is available, and they can be used as a walkway wherever it is. And these are again walls and sandbars are there. Flood protection, especially the structural one, which are costly, but at the same time they are permanent also. And if proper care is taken, they give a long-term solution also, like these houses that which are built up over here. And there are certain measures. Some embankments, they are blown away or they are carried away, they are broken in this manner. So in that case, then we can strengthen this using those kind of aqua dam. Or when the bridges, that when this much is not enough to carry, then they are broken. So in that case, we can create immediate pathways here to establish the communication. Or there are certain kind of measures, as I have shown in some of the figures, that these are structural elements that which can prevent water with proper seal and everything, which can be installed, and manual and design charts are available that what is the height of water that we want, or flood water or storm surge water that we want to prevent. And this can be customized to the area, and planting them inside with the like impermeable layer. So there are various ways that things can be restored, or population can be saved by this not so heavy but small structural intervention about the inundation from the flood inundation. Like we remember there are many things happen even in the hilly area like in Uttarakhand, that where there is no such cross drainage area is there, so it has blown away the entire road. So in that case, what kind of cross drainage that we have to put in? There are several designs available, especially for the hill roads or even in the highways or any roadways, that it has to have cross drainage like this. But when it is in the hilly area, when this is broken, it is so much heavy water along with their boulders and many other tree branches and many things comes over here. So the impact on the road infrastructure becomes very heavy. So in that case, and if tree branches, they clog these things, then we have again another primary protections of this one. Here, nothing is having, but only there are many roads that they are having this kind of cross drainage, but at the same time, they get clogged. So when they clog, then they cannot function. So they'll be broken in that way. So there are many ways to protect this one, like here it is being shown. And moreover, another thing is these are whenever any flood, storm surges happen, we visit there, we take interview, and there are lots of news comes up and news coverage are taken, and after the event happened, then we go there to collect the information. What are the impact of this water, and where it has inundated, how it has happened. But in some of the cases where structural measures are being taken like this, structural measures, where intervention is made with the structural measures, or when you see that when a canal or barrier or flood, like this bridge has broken, these are structural things that we have added so that we can communicate with this. But when it is broken, here so many people are there. So they are looking at that, they are looking only that something like that this bridge has gone wrong. But there would be people that, or there would be some kind of surveillance system that we can place in this days of internet, that how the water that level has come up, and then how it has aggravated, how it has covered, and how it has upgraded. Entire scenario of the failure, when it is captured in a CCTV camera or some kind of surveillance system, either locally or by the people who are standing over here, those are taken, and then that becomes a very primary base of information which helps the planner, again, road engineers or PWD or all those agencies, and whether it is government or private, or the people who are living over here. This gives such kind of documentation gives a live experience, and based on that experience, the next level of communication which has to be reestablished over here, then it gives a lot of confidence in making a more stronger or more resilient level of communication, road communication. The breaching has taken place. That can be covered up very well. But when such kind of information is not there, these days, of course, this is more than 10 years ago, but these photos are collected from the people also. These days, we have got internet, we have got WhatsApp, and we have got many formal and informal form of communication to collect this important information. So when some structural failures are there in the canals or even in the bridge, or even in coastal areas, some of the important infrastructure, port area or something that happens, then it is more obvious to collect the information. If it is missing, then public can help sharing that information. So such kind of communication with the, such kind of, taking them in the same pallet by the planner or by the engineers or by the line agencies who are functional, or irrigation agencies, would make the things more easier. So this is just a photo taken. The breach of the industrial canal and other during Hurricane Katrina created a writing a very, very nice way of presenting. And then the flooding from the breach here killed hundreds, destroyed homes, toppled trees, and forever altered the fabric of the historic lower Ninth Ward. The disaster forced the Army Corps to issue new guidelines in levee building, which improved safety for residents all across the country. So sharing something with the public and putting such kind of placard on the affected site, and then which is really a moving, and without mentioning how many people died, but showing that so many people and destroyed so many homes, instead of becoming particular, but in generic way, such kind of such kind of placard or such kind of wall panel or digital dashboard kind of things helps to remake the fabric of the society in the nearby. And also that those organizations that who are confessing that it is their failure rather. So in that case, how they have changed their way of making the levee, which has broken due to that Katrina, that hurricane, and how they have improved and what kind of actions they have taken and what kind of improvement that has occurred, and whether society and community who got affected nearby, whether they have got the proper compensation or not is not the only primary concern, whether their life and skill and their economy has been improved or not. So that kind of feelings have to be taken as a part of the reconstructions and rebuilding with a resilient nature, which we have to inculcate in our way of life also. Now you see that it is in Sundarban due to cyclone Yash that embankments are made, they are broken. The people that who visited there, they have interviewed the people and they have taken some photograph. I knew someone who have visited there. So it is now whoever have visited, it is their property and they are keeping it and they are describing it through some publication or through social media. But here all those who have constructed this, like the kind of scenario that taking on the same palette and sharing the ethos and then changing or improving the guideline and making a more robust and more familiar or more socially acceptable intervention measures or resilient measures. When we come with those things, then why this has failed and what kind of interventions that we have to make. And rather than questioning that it has failed or it is all entire department has gone wrong and there are some cyclic economies are there, instead of describing in that way, let us find out the reason that they have failed and what are the alternative measures, what are the improvement in the embankment design to be incorporated. And then in that case, simply bricks that which are placed over here. Now there are certain projects being taken up in the coastal area also. When these are there in between, in this part, put some vetiver grass or similar kind of plants which are plenty available or mangrove over here. Because putting mangrove over here, of course, this is more inside from the coastal area in Sundarban. So some of these grass plants or vetiver grass plant, which are very nicely now taken up in some of the project. In fact, those effectiveness of those things have to be studied as well also. Just putting the grass plants in some of this area where it has failed and just making a different projects on that, and then how much crore that we have spent up in planting the grass, but without looking into that how they are going to be effective enough, then it is not going to help until and unless we look into that. You see, here also grass plant being shown. This is vulnerable and it is used by, in West Bengal, by using Manrega workers. See that when such kind of failure in the engineering structure, where engineering is not there at all, because when they fail in that way, then we should avoid using the engineered structure. But at the same time, how natural natural system has worked beautifully over here for the long term. And then the same area can be protected for the lifetime maybe. For that also we have to keep that what are the kind of grass, especially here it is a vetiver grass example, and how effective they are and how long they are able to protect and what is the economic benefit, because these grows every day maybe by 1 inch or something. Then how, when they have to be cut and what are the uses and what kind of industries can be taken up by using this upper portion of that. And so what are the cottage industry can be established over there. So a lot of livelihood options are also there. Not only that, they are less costly. No maintenance is required. Here it needs again another cycle of maintenance over here. And they may fail or they may succeed, but there are perennial ways that we perennially we see that these are not fully purposive enough. They are not solving the purpose. In that, a combination of this and this could have taken, and for that we have to take decisions as well as make a mass scale campaign in this area. Like these are again different scenario being taken up. And here is the agricultural land that which is being inundated by salt water due to storm surge during Cyclone Yash. And you see that who would like to see that their agricultural land, just because initially that when I was showing, when a 50-meter or 20-meter cross embankment on a water channel, which are meeting the sea, river or Bay of Bengal, would have saved thousands of acres of this area. When a single maybe 4-meter, 5-meter, 6-meter or 10-meter height embankment, when we are able to make 260-meter high this dam in our country. So we say that 10-meter, making a 5 to 10 meter of embankment by local people without any engineering technique, without any engineering say intervention, rather locally things can be, embankment could be made and they could be very lifelong, they can be made stable by using simple vetiver grass, which doesn't cost anything. So that could have saved thousands of such land from the inundation. Like here again, this is again another scenario taken not by me, but a person that who have visited over there. See that in this area, the grass could have gone so easily rather than putting this kind of bricks. Here, the bricks cost very heavy, whereas grass cost hardly anything. So now comparison between resistance and resilience strategies. Here, okay, I think how much time I have?
Sir, it's about to be 12:30, but you can go ahead.
Okay, I can maybe another 5 to 10 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there are many reports are available and publications are there and you can see, but I would like to say that even those who are living in the coastal area, there are manuals are available for more than 20 years that where to, how to construct and what are the way. These are all typical classifications that being made. A zone and V zone are something. So in that case, what kind of support that should have to be made? And then what are the, even when this kind of structure is made, these are all typical, engineering measures or decision that being taken up to even to live in the, because how to live, how to adapt coastal erosion, how to adapt with the life that people living over there rather than giving in, then what are the structural measures to be taken and how to live with the waves itself, that they should not impact the house also. So there are various techniques are there. There are lots of engineering manuals are available based on the experience of the civil engineers, especially with the specialty in hydraulics and also coastal erosion. And so these are all available in this. So then climate change adaptation refers to actions that reduce the negative impact of climate change while taking advantage of potential new opportunities. Of course, in the first figure, I have shown that yes, when carbon dioxide is increasing, then we can have a more fish productions, or even vegetations can grow more easily with less some changes in the flora fauna also will take, but we can take positive aspect that it involves adjusting policies and action because of observed or expected change in climate. And for that, you can see lots of publication literature. And there are a lot of reports are available, but I would say that it involves many dimensions: science, economics, society, politics, and moral and ethical questions, and is a global problem felt on local scale that will be around for decades and centuries to come. So there are many such captive reports are available, which you can see. And reducing emission of stabilizing the levels of heat trapping greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which is called mitigation, and adapting to the climate change. Some example that I'm showing. A few more I'm going to show the adaptation. So these are all various pictures available. What are the projections being made? And then what are the mitigation measures and adaptation measures? What are the IPCC report are saying? Now COP27 also held this month. And there are mega cities carbon projects are also there. Carbon monitoring system is also there. I'm going an alternative. So I'm going that warming, it is taking place. There are a lot of mind-boggling research findings are there, both in favor of cooling or in favor of warming, but warming, more research papers are there. Cumulative number of papers in warming is more than cooling. And then there are these earth models are there, many. And global climate models are also there, which are many scientific groups are working on this, and they are finding out very, very substantial, information to project that how it is going to be in next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Then a general circulation model is a type of climate model, and mathematical models are also there. Atmospheric and oceanic general circulation model are also there. Key components along with sea ice and land surface. So, and these are all various model projections that they are making. These are all very well-known projections based on the models. So, atmospheric global circulation model, and then atmospheric global circulation models and oceanic global circulation models can be coupled to form an atmosphere-ocean coupled general circulation model. So this is where the many scientists that they are working, and every day mind-boggling research findings are coming up to know about the future of the climate change. And so the hypothesis that failed and many such publication comes. I'm not going to those details. Greenhouse gas emission, but let me come with some adapting with climate change. Few more example in the next couple of minutes. That we know that there are more than 5,800 dams in our country, and now not many new dams are being constructed. In fact, 1950s, 60s, when our economy just started and going, then we had to have many such dams that which are called the temples of Indian economic growth and our growth and civilization, you can say. But these days, as many, we cannot do. That is why more than 80% of our sweet water, rainwater, they have to pass through by flood or by, even in urban flood also, they are meeting the sea by many of the river. Say seasonal river, and as well as from the glacials also, the water is being carried by Himalayan river, and it is meeting the sea. So in that case, what then adaptation that we can make? When we cannot make these things, of course, here several meter cube of waters are there, maybe 10 lakh meter cube, 20 lakh meter cube, the QMAX water flow, this all can be controlled and communication. But we can store, micro storage we can do using the same geomembrane that which I have shown. And now, of course, the government has taken up, now means over the last so many years it is going on, to make and store water using this kind of membrane, or naturally recharge this aquifer, or store them in this manner openly, or even store them in this manner, especially in the hilly area or in the local area, where the water, instead of allowing it to go to the river and then river going to the sea, we can store water, and these are very cheap, much cheaper than that we store in our rooftop. Or we can allow inundation, not allowing any inundation through flood wall, and which can be done by people around when such kind of geosynthetics are being used. Or we can save this kind of buildings also from flood. And you see that how national figures that they take confidence in passing through the footpath over here, that which was inundated here in Germany. So such kind of barriers are also there. Instead of putting this way, wherever it is required, where water recharging is no more requirement, then at least we can put such kind of membrane over there. Instead of allowing them to go there, we can store them over there, and we can put them, and we can put a cover also, or we can close them. Or all those membrane can be carried in this manner. The properties are being given there. So these are, of course, I have shown, and these are, of course, it is being shown. There are many such are being taken up across the globe, and there are some examples. So, and I would like to say last that Godavari River, of course, now the dam, Polavaram Dam is now unfinished, but they have connected here surplus water of Godavari River passing over here to Krishna, which is not having much water. And these are made by not some part by canal, but majority by a pipeline, robust pipeline that they have made. Like this kind of pipeline has made that it has not intervened with any of the, no land acquisition has to take place, because these are underground. So whatever irrigations and other things can be taken up over there. These are the heavy duty pipeline, which is taken up there about several years, 5 to 7 years back. And these are the various kinds of pipelines which can be flexible enough where water can be carried from one place to another place and easy to install and other things. So now in the end, I would like to say that what kind, here we have, but these are all, in Kerala, this is the Arabian Sea, but these are all salt water, and Bembanadu Lake is having a communication over here, road communication, but what kind of measures, because this is seawater, these are all, there are lots of regulations are also there. This can be converted systematically into sweet water by putting some kind of barrier like this. And of course, this is here, no control is there, but this can be taken up. Even there are some other places that it is being done by controlling this portion of that. This is no water can pass through. So this water in the inland area can be checked over here by providing this kind of flexible, movable storm surge barrier. When storm surge is more, then we need not to allow, so that we can have a normal water level over here. Many of the coastal area, dock area, say dry dock area, even these breakwaters are being constructed. Even floating breakwaters are also there, so that coastal establishments can be managed. So I would say that the photograph that which was shown earlier is nothing but is done through India's Manrega program, that where 100 days of labor's say wages are given to all of them. So using them, such kind of community work is a good example in West Bengal, and across the country this program is going on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation, describing on all the aspects of the soft and hard mitigation measures for protecting coastal regions from risks, storm surges, and cyclones. The importance of the surveillance systems and for formal and informal, in the both formal and informal form, were highly important, and in the present times connecting with the internet access. So we really appreciate, and I would like to open the floor for participants to put their questions to sir.
I think no question means everything understood. Well, yes. Huh? Okay.
Any questions from the participants?
Participants all are now, they are in the, they can show their own, they can speak, no, in this Zoom platform, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone can.
At least they can switch on their cameras also.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can see the camera. Mohammed Sulfikar Ahmed. Of course, here bars subject area is quite widespread. It is not always, no one can, in fact, question is asked and it is being answered is not the aim. Rather, it is that our approach is to see that what is going on and then help the community and work on and the principles that already available, and also adapt certain measures that where we can live with.
So one small अनाउंसमेंट फॉर द पार्टिसिपेंट्स कि कल हम लोग कल और परसों 2 दिन जो हमारा नेक्स्ट अभी 3 दिन का प्रोग्राम है, तो 2 दिन अब ये प्रोग्राम 11:30 बजे स्टार्ट होगा. वी विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम 11:30. तो आप लोगों को 10:30 पे ज्वाइन नहीं करना है. कल से आप लोग 11:30 पे ज्वाइन करेंगे जो लोग पार्टिसिपेंट आज यहाँ पे थे. तो आज के लिए फिर कंक्लूड किया जाए इसे. मैम, यू वांट टू से समथिंग?
Yeah, both the प्रोफेसर घोष के प्रेजेंटेशन के बाद क्या बोलूं, तो बहुत अच्छा कवर किए ही हैं ऑलरेडी. सब कुछ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पे कैसा इम्पैक्ट करता है. He spoke so nicely on that, and he also actually discussed the remedial measures, what should be taken in such areas. So I think the first day has gone quite well. Now for the second day we are looking for good presentations, and apart from that we look for more participants. Actually participants, I believe that we need to share it on social media or something, because this is a very important topic and more people should join this platform. So that are so much hard work we have done. We brought so many resource persons and everybody's there. So why not to make full use of this platform and increase the number of participations. And of course I request the participants to basically share their views as well. It's not necessary that you need to ask questions. Sometimes you are from that particular area, from that particular region, and you have your own experiences. So we would be rather happy to listen from your side that how you have been to this situation, or you have done some research work on this area, or you have seen something like that. So that is going to be really helpful for us, and we will also learn from you. So that's what I would like to say. And please be on time tomorrow, and I request that you please share the link with other of your colleagues and those who are working in this area, so that this particular topic is quite unique. So more and more people should be able to join. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Satpathy, for writing a nice comment, and I hope this is our resource person, Professor Satpathy, or
no? Professor Satpathy is a participant with us.
Okay, that is another Satpathy. Okay. Thank you very much, sir, joining for this program and attending the whole lectures. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, and we will join tomorrow with another interesting sessions. we have 2 lectures tomorrow and 2 day after tomorrow. So thank you everyone.
Okay. Tomorrow at 11:30.
11:30
Yes.
tomorrow. From tomorrow and after tomorrow we will join at 11:30.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all the
Shall we
participants.
close? Yeah, shall we
Yeah.
close for today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, if anybody
Yes,
has
yes.
any questions, then please share it.
And we are there
Yeah.
for 2 more days, so you
Hello,
can
so
come with
Yes.
more,
Make
Yeah.
the questions to
sorry
us
for
on an idea.
hello.
So,
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Mohammed,
thank you.
Yeah.
are you saying something?
Mohammed.
Also, I have this question I want to ask. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yes, you can speak.
So this embankment construction, it's always been criticized for, you know, the kind of money and the funding requirement most of the times. So how do you see through this problem when it comes to the embankment construction? It involves a lot of funding support.
Yeah. In fact, I have also described showing that a lot of funding, of course, I have not mentioned directly, but when it is a matter of 3, 4, 5 meter high embankment or maybe 10 meter embankment, whatever funding that is required and is not that much, but it is, of course, system is such that it is so much. But let this natural, my main highlight is how to adapt in the natural way, like making some kind of arrangement at the local level, community level, panchayat level, with whatever grass that I have shown. There are several examples are there, and where not only grass but little bit of this depending on the location and area and the kind of tidal waves that it carries. Of course, though I said that no, it is not a big engineering when we are able to make 200 plus meter of height of these dams. But here, of course, little bit of historical studies and what are the waves, what is to be protected, and how recent cyclones or which is the severe most cyclone that has made tidal plus what are the critical conditions. So all those things needs few days or few weeks of characteristic data and study and report, which can be done by even university or even our engineering departments, and many consultancy firms are there, or many experts are available, even many retired professors in hydraulic engineering or even civil engineering. Along with the PWD engineers or those who are retired enough, who have a lot of experience, but they could not do the justice to their profession while in service. In that sense, some local knowledge always helpful. And so in that case, embankment construction cost can be minimized when Manrega workers are good enough with the proper directions that they have planted only grass. And so one grass cost compared to one brick, whatever 10 brick is covering an area, which is costing minimum 10 rupee, means 100 rupee. So 100 rupee, that is equivalent to one slip of the one plant of the grass, which is costing not even 1 rupee. So cost comparison, where 100 bricks, where 10 bricks equivalent to 100 rupee is coming down to 1 rupee. So it is whatever cost comparison that we want to make, it is even less than 1% and giving a more sustainable. Of course, whether it is more sustainable than existing one or not, that needs an observation. Because just put the grass, that is what has been done in many of the states, especially in West Bengal. People have planted the grass through a statewide program to erosion control measures, but they have not taken care of the grasses, whether they are growing or they are being eroded away or not. So it needs proper care and also engineering judgment. Some kind of assessment has to be done before putting the grass. And how to put that? That is where it comes in the bioengineering. Bioengineering, not biotechnology, rather bioengineering. All together have to be seen. Once the grass started growing and it is taken care of, 2 months of growth is good enough. 2 months, 3 months of growth is good enough. And what season of like in Sundarban, it is almost temperate. It doesn't, temperature doesn't come below even 18 degree or 15 degree. So it is throughout the year this grass can grow. So select the site and then take some notes and study, and what is the length of the embankment to be made, whether it is across the channel or river or canal or whatever waterways are there, or it is along the river bank or along the canal bank, whatever waterways is there. So along that is very easy, plant them on the slope. As slope is there, no need of trimming or anything. When it is across, then we need to take certain hydraulic data and then historical occurrence of this kind of tidal waves, or which is the maximum one, whether we should go for maximum height or not. These are all judgment to be taken up by the site specific after the site specific study and discussion. So cost wise, it is, you see, the cost wise, when 1% cost, when an embankment plantations can be done, even contribution from local people or some of the people, philanthropic or some of the religious organization or some of the volunteer organization, some of the clubs can afford to. So that kind of, when we are having throughout the year some kind of activity through club or through many such festivals are going on, then people have to come up. It is more important to save the agricultural land. It is, of course, I would say it is equally important to have a celebration, whatever seasonal things are there, but at the same time, it is also important to save the flora and fauna. So that kind of sensitization has to come. Then maybe whatever in celebrations, whatever amount that it is a social, social approach that have to come up. Maybe 1%, 2% of that can be shelved for this, channelized for such kind of social activity through many people in all villages who are affected one. There are many people who are more experienced. Sorry. So that kind of social, approach has to be taken up, and that is our aim, and that is how that we have been working, even in some of the areas. Rather than looking for how much grant will be here, grant is nothing. First, we start with how much grant is given. So our mindset has to change. How much money, and people in that area may be there, so many amount has been spent up and it is failed. Instead of, hearing these things and seeing that things are failing and then making a big news or other thing, rather we have to, here you see that no technology as such that we have to be imported from outside. It is by nature that we can take care of our river banks or channel and other things from the erosion. And wherever it requires for stopping the seawater or tidal waves entering into the agricultural land, the portion that which is being broken up, that can be operated by synthetics. It is, I have shown you one synthetic that which can take 10 lakh liter, more than 2-3 times of elevated water tank in the city area. That much of water it can store, and that water not only can store, but when it is made in a pipe form, they can reinstate the embankment that which is broken within no time. So few examples are being shown over here. So where you stay? Your home district?
Kerala. Trivandrum, Kerala.
Trivandrum. So why don't you take it up? They are in the coastal area.
Yes, sure. Sure,
We'll
sir.
take it. We'll take 3 to 5 days program.
Sure, sir. Try to work on
And carry the vetiver grass. Kerala is the source of vetiver grass. Many people are there. But only thing is that, as you said, that people have to come out on their own, rather than thinking too much about that, how much expenditure has been done by government that which is failing. We have to take it on our own way.
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Adding on to what you were saying, I think a lot of the aspects of the memory of disaster, which we talk about, like the past generations, how they have faced and how they are trying to take care of, that also adds a lot to the knowledge and develops a knowledge base for us and the coming generations to develop the adaptation measures. So always when we go to the communities, try asking to the if we try asking to the older generations how they have faced the disasters and how they have tried to adapt different adaptation measures, I think that would also be a good addition to all the future measures which we take up.
Yeah, because that experience, in fact, this RICA and NIDM project is framed in that aspect only. Our local adaptive measures are effective enough, and see that how those can be adapted again, and they can be used again, rather than vetiver grass. And it's not that only vetiver grass, if you plant in seawater, it will not grow. Then how it is to be seasoned with little bit of salt water, little bit of sweet water. So those kind of many examples are there, that how it is growing in the even in seawater also. But all in a sudden it will not grow. So in that it is to be seasoned enough, and for that proper care and its biophytoremediation things have to be studied. Though there are many applications that have been done, but proper documentation has not been done. And this is the time that adopt this, because it is not so costly. It is not wild variety, but at least it will not harm the coastal ecology. Taking that thing in mind, then there could be some kind of research and observation, documentation, and then in line with local agricultural practices, there may be many other such varieties of grasses or some kind of plants, like bamboo is one of that, but which can grow in the coastal area. Those, I think there are a lot of study reports are there. I'm not much aware of that, but a lot of work is going on, and some measures are also taken. Those have to be taken into this project.
Definitely, sir. Thank you. Then I think we can close for the day. Thank you to all the participants, and we would like you all to join by 11:30 tomorrow for the next set of sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.